And I'm ready. Thank you, Chief Secretary. Thank you, members of the Fourth Estate, for coming. Cabinet discussed a number of issues as follows. Cabinet received a report on the hosting of the first United Nations Tourism Africa Gastronomy Forum as presented by the Minister of Tourism and Hospitality Industry, Honorable Barbara Rodzi. Zimbabwe will be hosting the United Nations Tourism Africa Gastronomy Forum, the first on the African continent, in Victoria Falls from the 26th to the 28th of July 2024. Zimbabwe was selected to host the forum in the wake of an exceptional exhibition of our country's culture and cuisine by our Zimbabwean delegation at a similar forum held in Spain in October 2023. Zimbabwe received 100 scholarships from the United Nations Tourism during the forum in Spain targeting Zimbabwean beneficiaries. The scholarships have been taken up by students in culinary departments and schools across Zimbabwe, and all the country's 10 provinces benefited from the scholarships. Meanwhile, the government of Zimbabwe is in the process of establishing a gastronomy tourism academy in Victoria Falls in order to serve Zimbabwe and the whole of the African continent. The prestigious event in Victoria Falls will further validate His Excellency the President Dr. Idi Mnangagwa's untiring efforts to establish our country as a global leader in heritage-based tourism and hospitality. Cabinet considered and approved the additional principles to amend the Zimbabwe Media Commission Act as presented by the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services. The additional principles in terms of the amendments will ensure that all the identified gaps are covered. The amendments will also standardize training in journalism and mass communication, thereby entrenching professionalism. Furthermore, the definition of a media practitioner will be expanded, and a Media Council of Zimbabwe will be established for the purposes of regulating the media. Additional principles will also cover the ownership of mass media services in the country, the tenure of office for commissioners and the reporting structure. Foreign ownership of mass media services in Zimbabwe will be limited in order to promote local content, local businesses and employment. The Zimbabwe Media Commissioners will serve for a 5-year term, which is renewable once in terms of the Constitution, and the Commission shall report to the Minister as provided for in the Constitution. The addition in terms of the principles are also as a result of many consultative meetings between the Ministry of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services, ZUJ, the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe, and the Zimbabwe Media Commission. The journalists also support the proposed principles. Cabinet also deliberated and approved the principles of the Media Practitioners Bill, which was presented by the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services. This is in line with supporting the protection of media practitioners, journalists included. After repealing IPA, Cabinet approved the media practitioners' principles, which will go a long way in protecting the media practitioners. This comes at the backdrop of several lobbying groups, which also include ZUJ, MAS, and also in consultation with the Zimbabwe Media Commission. This has been developed in order to support the media profession and also the sector. The bill will professionalize the media practitioners and define media practitioners. which will also allow the independence and co-regulation of media practitioners within the sector. It will also allow the growth and development of the media industry. The nation is also advised that the Media Practitioners Bill seeks to create a legal framework that outlines the parameters for the regulation of the media as provided for in terms of Section 249, subsection 3 of the Constitution of Zimbabwe. This entails the creation of the Zimbabwe Media Practitioners Council, which will be responsible for the regulation and enforcement of professionalism among all media practitioners. The Media Council will use delegated power from the Zimbabwe Media Commission to discipline its members. The Media Practitioners Council will also deal with conduct and ethics, and media practitioners or councillors will be elected, including an addition of nominees from the Editors Forum, public media institutions, private media institutions, the academia, freelance media practitioners, and many others. Cabinet also considered and approved the principles for the additional amendments to the Broadcasting Services Act, which were presented by the Minister of Information, Publicity and Broadcasting Services. As the nation may recall, the first set of principles for the amendment of the Broadcasting Services Act were approved by Cabinet in 2019. The proposed additional principles are therefore meant to address shortcomings which were identified in the development. The additional principles and the amendments which will follow, among other provisions, will provide for the following: ensuring gender balance in the appointment of the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe Board, the introduction of annual applications for broadcasting frequency spectrum licenses, broadening and the introduction of new definitions under Section 38A, and the prohibition of sale of motor vehicle registration license or motor vehicle insurance cover or policy to a person without a current radio license or an exemption from Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation under Section 38B. In terms of the amended Act, the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation revenue base will be broadened, since it will be mandatory for all motorists to have current radio licenses before either disposing their vehicles or on purchasing motor vehicles. Cabinet received and adopted the update on the summer marketing and winter cereals plan, which was presented by the Minister of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development, Dr. Anxious Jongwe Masuka. According to the results of the second round of Crops, Livestock and Fisheries Assessment of the 18th of April 2024, the country's updated food balance sheet to March 2025 indicates a shortfall of 598,000 metric tons of consumption level at a rate of 7.5 kgs per person per month to 1,108,425 metric tons of consumption of 10 kgs per person per month. The food security balance sheet comprises 1. Stock held by individuals, private sector and government. 2. The meager El Nino-induced drought harvest. 3. The imports by government and the private sector. 4. The winter cereal production. The wheat-based food security strategic intervention will reduce the import requirement by government by 486,000 metric tons, which is equivalent to US dollars 189.5 million. Sufficient resources will therefore be deployed towards the timeous payments of local grain deliveries. The shortfall in grain requirements will be met through imports by the private sector, which has indicated the capacity to import 1 million metric tons between April 2024 and March 2025 in order to mitigate the effects of drought. The Grain Marketing Board stocks as of 25th of April 2025 for maize, traditional grains, and strategic grain reserves, and wheat are 308,000 metric tons, including which we have wheat that is available for sale, and with a total of 122,000 metric tons. Cumulatively, government is 430,000 metric tons. Regarding the summer crops marketing update, the nation is advised that 6,998 metric tons of grains and oilseed has been marketed to date. A total of 142,000 hectares is being earmarked for irrigation, and the various crops planted for winter production are wheat on 120,000 hectares, barley on 7,000 hectares, maize or sorghum on 3,200 hectares, and potatoes on 6,750 hectares, to produce over 800,000 metric tons, of which 600,000 metric tons shall be wheat for food security. The wheat production hectarage will be sponsored by the banks, the Presidential Input Scheme, ADA, and the Food Crop Contractors Association, and self-financing. To date, a total of 60,139 hectares has been contracted under various schemes, out of which 1,352.5 hectares has already been planted. The government and stakeholders are tracking 11 winter wheat production enablers, mainly power, water, seed, fertilizer, fuel, farmer outstanding payments, finance, coordination, monitoring and evaluation, migratory pests, mechanization, and chemicals. Despite the El Nino-induced drought and declaration of the state of disaster by His Excellency the President, government would like to assure the nation that there are sufficient plans to provide affordable grains through sale and also through the social welfare channels till March 2025, when the next harvest is expected. Cabinet received reports on progress made in the implementation of priority projects for the first 100-day cycle of 2024, as presented by the Ministers of Health and Childcare, Energy and Power Development, and Higher and Tertiary Education, Innovation, Science and Technology Development. The Acting Minister of Health and Childcare, Professor Paul Mavima, reported progress on projects under the Ministry of Health and Childcare as follows: the construction of pharmacy stores at Dombotombo Clinic, in Marondera, Nyamzue and Makosa Rural Hospitals, and Chikondoma Clinic in Mtoko, Chiveso and Katanya Clinics, Bindura, Guruve and Kemtamba Clinics in Guruve, and Gonono Clinic in Mbire are 95% in terms of completion. The refurbishment of the genomic sequencing laboratory at Salimu Gabe Central Hospital is at 80% in terms of completion. The installation of X-ray machine at Victoria Falls Hospital is at 95% in terms of completion. The construction of a mega water tank at Chitungwiza Central Hospital is at 50% in terms of completion. The construction of an incinerator at Salimu Gabe Central Hospital is at 65% in terms of completion. The Minister of Energy and Power Development, Honorable Edgar Moyo, reported progress on projects being undertaken by his ministry as follows: the 132 kilovolt line under the Alaska Karoi Power Transmission Rehabilitation Project was successfully completed, energized and commissioned in March 2024. The 200 kilowatt Hakwata Community Solar Project in Chipinge District was completed and commissioned, together with the construction and installation of 90 biodigesters, the internal wiring and installation of 80 households, and the drilling of 3 boreholes. The project will benefit 12,500 people directly. The 120 kilowatt Chitulipasi solar project in Byte Bridge District is now 85% in terms of completion. And on completion, 27 homesteads, a primary school, a clinic, the Zimbabwe Republic Police and reader camps, and a business center will be connected to the solar grid. The 23 megawatt Central Grid Solar Power Station Phase 2 in Nyabira Zimba District has reached 93% in terms of completion, with 100% installation of photovoltaic panels. The Minister of Higher Education, Innovation, Science and Technology Development, Professor Emon Muruira, reported progress on projects under his purview as follows. The establishment of the Mtoko Bioeconomic Cooking Oil Plant is 85% in terms of completion. The Bingwa Eco-Tourism Innovation and Industrial Park is at 90% in terms of completion. The modified coal tar project in Rishavane, Midlands Province, is at 60% in terms of completion. The construction of a satellite communication and Earth observation center is at 85% in terms of completion. The Manicaland State University fencing project is at 85% in terms of completion, and the integrated skills expansion and outreach program is at 80% in terms of completion. Cabinet also received a report on the state visit to Zimbabwe by His Excellency Dr. Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, from the 26th to the 27th of April 2024, as presented by the Acting Minister of Foreign Affairs, Professor Emon Muruira. The nation is advised that His Excellency President Ruto undertook a highly successful state visit to Zimbabwe at the invitation of his counterpart, His Excellency the President, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa. Dr. Ruto officially opened the 64th edition of the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair on the 27th of April 2024. Cabinet is pleased to advise that the 2 presidents presided over the signing of 9 instruments of cooperation that were recommended by the 4th session of the Zimbabwe-Kenya Joint Permanent Commission on Cooperation held in Harare from the 21st to the 23rd of April 2024. The 2 leaders agreed to elevate the Joint Permanent Commission on Cooperation to a binational commission. His Excellency President Ruto offered to host the inaugural binational commission in Kenya in 2026. President Ruto also thanked the government of Zimbabwe for the donation of 100 metric tons of oxygen to Kenya during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic in the previous years. The Kenyan president pledged to donate food products to Zimbabwe valued at $1 million. The donation also includes 30,000 bags of maize. Cabinet also received and adopted the report on the official visit to Tehran by the Honorable Vice President Dr. CGD Chiwenga, which was undertaken from the 26th to the 30th of April 2024. The Honorable Vice President represented His Excellency the President, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa, as the guest of honor at the 2nd Iran-Africa Economic Conference held in Iran. The objectives of Zimbabwe's participation at the conference were to explore opportunities for economic multi-sectorial cooperation and to gain insight into the progress made since the signing of the 12 memorandums of understanding with Iran. Honorable Vice President Chiwenga held 3 bilateral meetings with the President of Iran, the Vice President of Iran, and the Minister of Cooperatives, Labor and Social Welfare. The Vice President also toured targeted specific exhibitions at the Iran Expo 2024. The nation is advised that Iran has offered to train technical vocational education and the training of lecturers and students through an offer of 1,000 scholarships. Zimbabwe also sent to Iran technical personnel to be trained on dialysis machine production and maintenance. The setting up of a tractor assembly plant in the country by the Iran Tractor Manufacturing Company will also be expedited. Furthermore, the respective 2 countries resolved to enhance cooperation through the facilitation of free movement of goods and people through a conducive visa regime, the creation of a joint monitoring team for the implementation of all memorandums of understanding, and the establishment of a joint team to draw up a 10-year plan and roadmap for the cooperation between the 2 countries. Cabinet also received a report on the traffic accident that occurred along the Harare-Masvingo Road as presented by the Minister of Transport and Infrastructure Development, Honorable Felix Mona. The nation is advised that a serious road accident occurred at the 52-kilometer peg along the Harare-Masvingo Highway on Friday, the 26th of April 2024, resulting in the death of 15 people and a number of serious injuries. The injured people were admitted at Chivu and Chitungwiza hospitals, and government immediately declared the accident a national disaster and assisted the bereaved families. Government will also meet the medical bills of all the injured persons. Cabinet noted that the number of accidents are taking place between Harare and Chivu and has decided to upgrade the Chivu hospital. Cabinet has also appealed to all drivers to be careful on the roads in order to avoid these accidents. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us restrict our questions to the presentation made by the Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Thank you in the country. Then my second
that we are supposed to be hosting in terms of infrastructure. I think the question should actually be going to Honorable Mona to respond, but Honorable Barbara Rhodes, you can also be in a position to assist. Thank you.
Doing in terms of road infrastructure, which is quite amazing. And as you know that, yes, we've got a mandate to rehabilitate our roads, which we cannot do on a given date, all of them. We've got close to 90,000 kilometer road network in the country. But however, that's not a defense. As you know, we started attending to very damaged sections of Victoria Falls Road, which is known as Bay Bridge, Bulawayo, Victoria Falls. And we later realized on that the road was weaker. Initially, we targeted 60 kilometers of bad sections, but the moment we were attending to the bad sections, we also witnessed that potholes were mushrooming on the areas that were not attended to. So now we have resolved to do similarly the way we are working on the Bay Bridge Road to get a partner to work on, and the ministry insists. We are finalizing on the partners to work on the entire stretch, which is close to 760 kilometers, starting from Bay Bridge, Makado, Bulawayo, Vic Falls. So I want to assure the citizenry that the Second Republic, through the listening president, His Excellency Comrade Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa, is heeded to the core that yes, it's a very important cope in terms of connectivity when it comes to tourist activities within Victoria Falls. So there is no way we can abandon that road. And I want to assure this august forum that we are descending on the Vic Falls, and the contractor is attending, just managing the road so that it is trafficable. But the long and sustainable solution to the road is to rehabilitate, reconstruct the entire road network when it comes to the Victoria Falls. But I want to thank you, and also to allay the fears that it is an neglected road. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. There won't be any reintroduction of exorbitant fees, that I can assure you, comrade journalist. This is just a coordination of revenue streams in terms of the Broadcasting Services Act. The additional principles are there to ensure that we deal with a lacuna within the Broadcasting Services Act in terms of revenue generation, because you know the efficiency of a state or a government is in its coordination in terms of revenue streams. So this is precisely the issue. This is a listening government, and there won't be any exorbitant fees, I can assure you that. Theophilus, perhaps you can rephrase your question again.
Thank you so much.
Perhaps we could start with Honorable Mona, then we also...
Yes, I do concur. The scenario that we have on our roads is not pleasing. And as a country, we cannot continue losing our precious lives through roads. And once again, due to the wise counsel of His Excellency, during the budget process formulation and through the August House, a proposal was made by the Minister of Finance pertaining to the third party, and I'm sure maybe the Honorable Chair will buttress that point. But the essence and the jinx of that proposal was to make sure that whatever is being collected through third parties will then be channeled, especially through our hospitals, so that we cater for those who are actually injured during disasters that we had, as we have witnessed recently. But alas, you find that it is also very difficult to claim that money in the event of just an ordinary accident. But the modalities to that effect are being pursued by the Minister of Finance regarding on the collection mechanism of that third party, and on the pro rata basis pertaining to the claims that will emanate from such an insurance. So we are saying at the end of the day, as the Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, we will not sit and watch whilst we are witnessing these accidents. And you have cited the Blue Circle bus, which we have suspended until today, where they didn't have proper documentation, and one of such documentation is the public insurance. And it is provided in the Roads Act that yes, any public service vehicle must have with them adequate insurance cover. And this is the lacuna again that is existing, that we are seeing that yes, as much as it is covered in the Road Act, it is not being provided adequately to cater for such eventualities in the event of accidents. So it is one of the issues that we are working closely, and in terms of harmonization of policies, we are working closely, and I'm sure in due season we'll then advise having synchronized all the pieces of legislation to support that effect. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Accidents that we're experiencing, but we are doing our utmost through the police to ensure that there is law enforcement. And not only that, we are working together with my counterpart, Honorable Minister Mona, to leave no stone unturned in this regard. For starters, it's no longer going to be business as usual. We are going to be investigating each and every incident that, of an accident, starting with this particular one that has just happened. It's said that we've lost a number of people, and our condolences to the bereaved families. But I've spoken to the Commissioner General of Police, and we've agreed that we should investigate backwards. we need to determine what caused the accident. Was it a wrong decision by the driver? Was it a mechanical fault? Was the bus overloaded, the minibus? And if it was, did it pass through any roadblock? And if it did, why was that not corrected? So it's not going to be business as usual. We're going to interrogate each and every accident to get to the bottom of it. So we are saying to the police officers, please let's do our jobs as mandated by the laws. We should not allow vehicles that are not fit for road to pass through a traffic, through a roadblock. Neither should we allow drivers that are not fit for purpose to pass through a roadblock. If anything happens as a result, if a vehicle that has passed through a roadblock that you are manning is involved in an accident and the investigations reveal that that vehicle was not supposed to pass through that roadblock, then you will be accountable, you will be answerable. So we are doing that as an intervention to ensure that we bring sanity on our roads. But secondly, we are also working together with my counterparts to ensure that we will equip our police officers to be able to carry out their mandate, to be able to account for those who are driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs and substances, because we are aware that those could be other reasons why we are ending up with these accidents. So I'm happy to inform this Ocas Forum that we now do have the equipment. We just need to finalize a few things that can be used to test, to do some spot checks to see if one is under the influence of drugs or alcohol. That's the second intervention. We are also deploying electronic management, traffic management systems. It's work in progress, which will result in the deployment of cameras on our roads and on our crossing points, which will in turn eliminate the human interference so that we ensure that we don't have people who forget to do what they are paid to do and instead engage in corrupt activities. So these are some of the interventions that we are making as government and as Minister of Home Affairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable.
Yes, topical, even from the legislative perspective, where awareness in terms of public consultations were ongoing, and even through the Committee on Transport and Infrastructural Development. And the matter has been cascaded to Cabinet, and now the matter is before the Cabinet Committee on Legislation, where we are perfecting the bill. And if it's ready, then we'll table it and broadcast it accordingly. But it is one of our agent matters that we are working with pertaining to the Road Accident Fund. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
The secretary
into the process. However, for the country, we monitor this through a very robust surveillance system. We've established the Department of Migratory Pests specifically to respond to climate change-induced pests and diseases. With Zimbabwe predicted to become drier in the decades ahead, it can be expected that pests and diseases will increase, not just for crops. Humans, malaria will be found in higher elevation areas because it's going to be warmer. Tsetse fly, which is predominantly in the lower veld, will also now begin to encroach to other warmer areas. We anticipate that the fall armyworm, for example, that was detected a couple of seasons ago and has become endemic in the country, will continue to cause havoc. We've seen more incidences of this pest this year, and as a result, government has responded by distributing fall armyworm chemical to each of the 1.8 million rural households, and we expect to continue with this. We've also noted that although we have set up ward and village-based surveillance systems within the agri-tech system, that is insufficient. When there is an outbreak, invariably there's lots of damage, especially if this happens at the crop stage, 5-6 leaf stage. So we want now to be able to utilize technology to assist us in the monitoring of these pests and diseases. So government is very alert to this. We have not seen any specific diseases associated with the El Nino and the drier period. It can be expected, however, from knowledge of pests and diseases, that you can expect an increase in the bacterial diseases with heightened temperature. So government is on the lookout and will continue to be as vigilant as is humanly possible. Thank you.
Who is your Secretary General, Mr. Chongwan, that the principles that we were pushing for as Zuji and Mas were adopted by Cabinet today. That now work has to start in consultation with the Zimbabwe Media Commission. This is a project and amendments and a bill in terms of development that has been pushed by media practitioners, and he is there to confirm and attest and verify that this is one of the developments in terms of the media that you have been so passionate about as media practitioners, that will professionalize the sector. So perhaps you can confirm, Mr. Kyogwan, as Secretary General of ZUJ.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Well, just to say, indeed, there have been engagements.
Kazembe. Over to you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for being so generous to share your infrastructure gadgets, which is quite unique. But before I proceed with your indulgence, Honorable Chair, my colleague, Minister Honorable Kazembe, talked about the issues to do with accidents that is no longer business as usual. And we've actually investigated, which is the recent case of the Beatrice accident, and also to appraise this August House that the driver did not have relevant competence to drive public service vehicle according to Road Traffic Act, and therefore the operator's license is going to be cancelled and the driver is going to be charged. So I'm sure we'll issue a statement to that effect. And I'll proceed to our joint statement, which is by the Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, myself, and Minister of Home Affairs and Cultural Heritage, Honorable Kazembe, urging motorists to exercise caution during the Workers' Day holiday. With the Workers' Day holiday upon us, many people want to commemorate this day with family and friends. Road safety has a sharper focus during this period, with more people traveling to various holiday destinations to spend this day with their families. Motorists are urged to make their holiday journeys safer and smarter by preparing well and making the right choices. This is a special time for our nation, and no holiday should be marred by a road crash that could be easily avoided. Government would also like to appeal to operators of public service vehicles and private motorists not to use defective and unroadworthy vehicles. Operators are also strongly urged to desist from the habit of overworking their drivers, which results in driver fatigue. Drivers should stick to regulated speed limits, as speeding is one of the major causes of fatal road crashes. Driving under the influence of alcohol, drugs, and substance is a punishable offense and is totally unacceptable. It is government's fervent hope that we shall all strive to make this year's Workers' Day holiday accident-free by exercising extreme caution and adhering to all the traffic laws. Let us sustain the momentum of the low rate of road crashes that we experienced during the recent Easter and Independence holidays. To further prevent traffic deaths and injuries, the Zimbabwe Republic Police and Vehicle Inspectorate Department will be participating in joint enforcement operations throughout the Workers' Day holiday period and during the forthcoming reopening of the second term. Our Traffic Safety Council will also undertake road safety awareness campaigns to persuade road users to make their own contribution towards safety. May we take this opportunity together with my colleague, Minister
to wish all Zimbabweans a safe and accident-free Workers' Day holiday. I thank you.
Thank you very much.